Full shit, you know what I'm saying? Like, just some social shit for everyone, you know what I'm saying? Like, I made this be myself, so hear me. Woo! I mean, like, we can pull that clown shit away. There's some real shit for you. I'm spazzing right now, so listen, let's go. Yeah. It's in their bones, the dogs in harmony for the love of the money. Then fall victim for the cookie, then turn pussy, it's lonely. You said you hold it down when life get rough, we're here now, so show me. We move them losses to them wins. Heavy pounds, we make it ends meet. Converse with only few who make me feel like I be 10 feet.
Yes, people, what's going on, man? We are back with the Euro Club fourfold. Yes, we are back with episode 12. It's been an eventful week, man. I can't even front. It's been a good week for one of my teams. It's been a very, very good week for one of my teams. A couple of the other teams, not so much, of course. But yeah, it's been pretty cool, man. It's been pretty cool. Obviously, guys, please make sure you smash that like, you share, and subscribe to the damn channel. Obviously, last week, we were gearing up. It was going to be a very big week for Barcelona, especially, just because they had to face Bayern Munich, in the Champions League, and then of course they had the El Clasico. Make sure you go head on over to my match reaction to that game. It's probably going to come up on the top of your screen. So yeah, click that and have a watch of that. If you haven't watched the game, go and watch it because it was extremely eventful. But just taking back through like last week and just a couple of the games. Obviously, Bayern did face Barcelona coming to their stadium. I was about to call it the Camp Nou, but it's not called that anymore, isn't it? The Spotify bloody, whatever it's bloody called now. But obviously Barcelona absolutely thumped, Bayern Munich in that game in the Champions League. It was a very convincing victory, and it kind of set them up, of course, for the weekend's events, which we'll, of course, get into in a moment. But listen, man, Barcelona in particular, they have been on fire, really played well, this season. Probably, I mean, you'd have to look across all the leagues, but I can't think of many teams who have been better than Barcelona, this season in terms of overall, in terms of their performances more than anything. When you're watching them, you can see what Hansi Flick is doing. And, I read, today that, he doesn't even feel like the team is even at its pinnacle. It's not even at its best, so the fact that he's even thinking that and he's saying that is like, yo, okay. This is where we're kind of at with Barcelona at this moment in time. You're beating teams like Bayern Munich and, of course, the El Clasico kind of thing. Rafinha, again, he's been on absolute top form. Again, we'll speak about that. And, of course, Lewandowski. Obviously, Juve were in the Champions League as well, and they lost 1-0 to Stuttgart. Yeah, I mean, again, we'll talk about their last game. And I don't know, man, this season, I don't know, man. Like, obviously, they've not been losing games, so to speak, this season. It's not like that, they've lost like 5 games this season and, things are not really working out in that sense. But in terms of performances, I watched the highlights of this game and I don't know, man. I keep saying it almost every episode as well. Like, there's something about Juve that I'm just not really 100% convinced about. Like, obviously, you bought bare players and all of that kind of stuff. I get it. But I don't know, man. It's just, right now, it just doesn't really look like it's clicking, so to speak, for me anyway. And again, I'm not, listen, I'm not in tune, so to speak, with Juve and stuff like that. And I do think maybe the way that, Thiago Motta, kind of does want to play, maybe that's going to be, would I say somewhat of a impact, so to speak, in terms of, the team just really understanding. And maybe he doesn't have all the players that he particularly needs and wants for this team. I mean, I'm looking at the lineup. Yes, the lineup for me is relatively strong to defeat a team like, Stuttgart. No disrespect to Stuttgart, by the way, who are a decent team, especially in the last couple of seasons, or the last season and, the beginning of this. But yeah, I still think that, there's just something not really quite right with them, if I'm being honest. And listen, it may click later on, but there's just, I don't know what it is. I just don't feel like they've got the right pieces for what they're trying to do. They've got some good players and some decent players in there. Obviously, I like Yildiz. He's a, somewhat decent player as well, young player coming through. Conceição, I felt like, yeah, that's a somewhat decent type of signing. Weston McKennie's he's okay. Thuram, he's been decent this season, but it's like decent. I don't feel like anybody there really has been a real standout, if I'm being honest, in terms of Juve this season. And again, that might be manager, that might be players just themselves, might not be even as good as I think that some of these players are. Who knows? But yeah, that's just kind of the way that I've kind of seen Juve this season. And Lyon, of course, in the Europa League, lost to Besiktas. Lost 1-0 to Besiktas. Not very good. Especially, we've been speaking about Lyon, doing really, really well, as of recently, in terms of their games and, winning a few games in a row, climbing up the Ligue 1 table, kind of thing. And they were, going on like a somewhat decent run. I think they had like 3 wins inside a week. And, as I said, you come after the international break, you had to make sure. I think they had to play Le Havre, and I think they beat them. And I said, all right, you just have to continue this. But you don't have to. It'd be nice if you always won. You can't always win. That's fair. But if you can, get a draw, but to lose out, and then of course we move on to, the kind of like this, their last game, and they ended up drawing 2-2. So then you're just looking at it thinking, don't start going on bad runs. Do you get what I'm trying to say? You worked so hard to get yourselves, up the table and stuff like that. You've worked so hard in the last, would I say, somewhat 4 to 5 games, so to speak. Then you just got to kind of keep that momentum going, man. And also it helps with the team morale and stuff like that, especially when before you were languishing, further down the table. Mikawatse, getting himself a goal as well. Again, he's been very underwhelming in my personal opinion. I've not really been too impressed with him in terms of this season. He's a good player. I think he is a very decent player. But he's just not really been performing in my personal opinion. And in this game as well, especially, I didn't really feel like Lyon played that well. If I'm being totally honest with you. It's just one of those kind of things for Lyon. Like I've been saying it like from the beginning. It's like, they weren't really clicking. They weren't really doing too much. Cool. All right. Cool. We can put that down to just early season and stuff like that. Then they finally get themselves a little bit of form. And then it just, last couple of games, as I say, Besiktas losing 1-0. And then, of course, this game drawing 2-2. It's just starting to slowly, just be careful. Just be careful. But again, listen, I'm not expecting them to win every single game. When we look at Juventus, obviously, as I mentioned before, they lost their last game in the two previous games. They lost against Stuttgart in the Champions League and then drew 4-4 in the Italian derby against Inter Milan. Like I said, man, listen, great, came back, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's all great. And it was a good game. In terms of the match itself, watching that game back, it was a good game. But again, Juve, you can look at it both sides. You can look at it and say, great that you came back, all of that, blah, 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 that's great. But on the flip side, I'm like, the way that you guys were playing, this is what I'm saying. It's like there's just something in the makeup of Juve at the moment that I'm just not 100% convinced about. Don't know what it is, but it's just not really convinced about. It's just really not convinced about. Listen, it might get better. It may get better in the future, but right now I'm just not really feeling it too tough. Yildiz obviously was a key player for them, of course, getting himself 2 goals, the all-important goal as well. And as I said, as a game, just as a neutral, it was a good game. Like I felt like it was quite exciting, seeing the comeback and all that kind of things. Yeah, like that was cool. You know what I mean? That was pretty all right. You know what I mean? Pretty all right. But in a general sense, I was just like, Jesus Christ, Juve, man. Like, you're just sitting there just thinking to yourself like, bro, come on, man. Like, I get it. You got that goal, obviously Yildiz scoring in like the 82nd minute, but it's the fact that, you guys, were 2-0 up, at one stage, in the game. Then you get, 3-2. Then it's like, bro, come on, man. Like, you can't really be doing stuff like this, man. And I didn't really feel like they put in that good of it, like good to come back, but again, there were some players I felt in the game. Kalulu, I didn't really feel like he played that well in the game. To be honest, the 2 centre backs, Kalulu and Danilo, I didn't really feel like they played particularly well in the game. Fagioli, again, don't really feel like he played particularly well in the game. Came off in the 61st minute. He kind of had to. So yeah, there's a lot to be desired when it does come to Juventus. But listen, they've got kind of like a youngish team at this moment in time, so maybe things will start to develop later on. But yeah, right now they're a team that I look at and think, yeah, you're kind of over there. You're not really that serious. I don't think you're really that good, to be honest. So yeah, you do need to buck up if you want to get yourselves back, to being one of the better teams around town. Obviously, Bayern faced off this weekend, winning 5-0. As you can see, they beat Bochum 5-0. Harry Kane again, scoring again. You know what I mean? Musiala on the score sheet. Elise, Sane. Yo, like you don't really see that, but just even the Elise, Musiala, Kane, Sane, like, come on, man, that's a bit unfair. It's almost too unfair, when you think about it, because you're just like, come on, man, you guys can't be, I mean, out here just with these kind of players and doing your thing. But like I said before, losing out to, and then obviously Kingsley Coman as well. Sorry, him scoring as well. That's their whole attack. That's literally the whole attack. If Gnabry had scored, if Gnabry and Matisse Tel were able to score, yeah, it would have been, yeah, that's mad. Imagine having all your attackers scoring in a game, like every single attacker that you kind of got, But yeah, listen, look, Vincent Company mentioned after the game about them taking the game seriously and stuff like that. In the 8 games that they played this season, they scored 29 goals. So yeah, they are really a goal machine. And this guy is definitely a goal machine. Harry Kane, 8 games, 9 goals, 6 assists. That's 15 GA for the GA guys out there, which is obviously fantastic. And of course, Harry Kane coming 10th in the Ballon d'Or, which is pretty good, pretty good. Matisse Tel coming in 8th in the Copper Trophy as well, which again, really, really good. And I like Matisse Tel. I think he's a very, very good player. I just put this picture up because I liked it. It's my two of my favorite players, in world football at this current moment in time, in Jamal Musiala and Elise. And they seem like they're forming like a really good relationship, by the way, on the pitch. I know obviously Musiala, I think he picked up a little bit of an injury, but just those two, whenever they play together, they just always seem to find it. To be fair, it does remind me a little bit of when Elise and Eze, when someone's on your wavelength, forget the rest of the team. Obviously, the rest of the attack is phenomenal. Like, come on, like Harry Kane, Coman, Sane, Gnabry, Muller, like they got ballers. But just these two just seem like they're on the same wavelength, which is what I really do like, about these two players. Both young players as well. Both exciting players, both players, who like to, get the crowd on their feet, type of players. But then they're both very, very efficient. Musiala, obviously, everyone knows that's my favorite player right now in the world as it is. But just in a general sense, like those two just seem to be, yeah, man, if they can continue that for years to come, listen, man. And the thing is, they're only getting better. They're still young and they're still getting better. God knows what that's going to look like, in the future. Like it might be scary hours that I'm not going to put them on that pedestal just yet, but I'll caveat that by saying you never know. Robin, Ribery, you know what I'm saying? Later on in their careers, those two were demons. Do you get what I'm trying to say? But the difference between those two is I always felt like they were doing, it was very individual, it was just two individuals on the same team, just doing their thing. I never really felt like there was a real connection, if I'm being, 100% honest with Ribery and Robin. I never really felt that level of a connection. I felt like it was like Mane and Salah. Yeah, that's what that reminded me of, like Mane and Salah, where it's like, we're obviously it's for the team and yeah, we'll do the kumbaya stuff, but fair enough. But I want to make sure I eat. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Like I always want to make sure that I'm always eating. These two don't really seem like that. These two seem like, yo, like, yeah, I mean, we will play for each other. So listen, man, we shall wait and we shall see. Now to the big boys, big boys, and that is Barcelona. Obviously, I've got these 3 here on the screen. I mean, yeah, man, Barcelona are yeah, as I said before, they're frightening. They're very, very frightening. As I mentioned before, go and watch my El Clasico reaction because yeah, that was a humiliation for Real Madrid. Real Madrid fans already know it. They've spoken about it. They've cussed Mbappe's and stuff like that. Yeah, pretty crazy, pretty crazy. I saw this picture, yeah, and it's very, very funny because I think about it and I'm like, you know what? It's actually kind of true, Like, if you look at the front threes that they've had, like just like the famous, really, really good front threes they've had. Obviously, you've got Ronaldinho, Lionel Messi, and then you've got that number 9 striker. It's like, it's almost, I think because I'm such a big Barcelona fan and how I've seen their teams been produced over the years, I think that's how I always want to see. Like, if I'm going to see a 4-3-3, I need to see 2 dope wingers and a dope striker. Like that's what I want in my own team. Is I want 2 dope wingers and a dope striker, but a striker who all he knows is nothing but net. So he's going to be selfish every now and again. But like, what I'm saying, the other 2 will complement that with what they do. Obviously, Messi, Ronaldinho, of course. Thierry Henry, going to throw him in there as a winger as well. Pedri, David Villa. You know, oh Jesus Christ, I'm thinking about it now. Pedri, David Villa, heck, you even got the Ludovic Julies in that. You know what I'm saying? This is all throwing it back. Obviously, you got the MSN. We already know about them. But now you've obviously got Lewandowski as the central striker. Rafinha this season, of course. I'm not saying overall because Rafinha will be the worst player on this entire list, you know, kind of thing, if we looked at it, you know, in totality. But this season, he's been absolutely on fire. And then, of course, you know, Lamine Yamal, you know, doing his thing as per usual. So, yeah, man, Lamine Yamal joins the other two, Pedri and Gavi, as being two Barcelona players to win the Copa Trophy award. He obviously won that at the Ballon d'Or ceremony. I can't remember where he finished actually in the Ballon d'Or list. I feel like it was in the top 15 or 20. I'm going to say top 20. I definitely know he finished in that top 20. I'll be very surprised if it was anything outside of that, but I'm sure, you know, he finished in, you know, in that list. And then, of course, listen, look, Barcelona sitting top of the league, as I mentioned before in my match reaction, 6 points ahead of Real Madrid, 9 points ahead of, you know, Villarreal, 10 ahead of Atletico Madrid. So now they're building up a very, very healthy lead, which is always good. You always want to build up those kind of leads at this kind of point in time because, listen, man, every game counts at this point. You know, when you beat your rivals at this stage, I'm not going to say it's defining. It's only defining if the points are going to be quite big. If it's like, oh, you're only going to be a point ahead, it's defining in terms of the context of the game. But I don't look at it and be like, oh my goodness, like, you know, this is, whereas, you know, looking at this, I'm like, yeah, well, they're 6 points ahead now. Like, that's kind of a lot, you know, it's a lot of points, you know, kind of thing. And you've obviously stopped the other team. So yeah, it's just one of those kind of things, man. One of those kind of things. But guys, please make sure you do smash that like, share, and subscribe on your way out of here. I will be back at some point, probably in the day, doing my reaction to the Ballon d'Or ceremony. So make sure you guys stay tuned, stay locked in. Big up to everybody who's tuned in. Peace.